Welcome to K-Drama School. I'm your host, Grace Jung, and class is now in session. Today I'm going to be talking about the show Green Mother's Club, starring some very big K-drama classic queens. You have Yeowon, who is a very old school Korean drama star that I find her fascinating. She was up and coming right around the year 2000, and she almost immediately got married and had a bunch of kids. I found that choice to be very radical and interesting. But Yeowon kept up her career pretty consistently, and I greatly admire her for that. And she's made some really big waves with the epic historical period drama Queen's Hundok, which is a very long but pretty worthwhile show. Queen's Hundok, by the way, is actually Hundok Yewang. And what people don't understand is that Yewang does not mean queen. Okay, so there's no English equivalent for what Sundok Yewang actually was. Sundok was a king. Okay, Ye means woman and Wang means king. So Sundok was actually just like Korea's first ever king. Like she was not a queen to anybody. Do you understand? So that's what made Sundok Yewang such a radical figure, and Yeowon played portrayed Sundok Yewang very, very well in the year 2009. This show also includes the actress Chu Jae-hyun, who I really adore. I first saw Chu Jae-hyun in the show Successful Story of a Bright Girl, and she was so hilarious on that show. She has amazing comedic acting abilities, and I wish I could see her lean into a lot more of that. But she's playing more of a dramatic role on this show. Chu Jae-hyun's been in the Korean TV industry since the mid 90s, and she's still kicking ass. I think she gained a lot of popularity overseas, like especially in China. So I think Chu Jae-hyun is definitely a Hallyu star. Then you have the actress Kim Gyuri. I used to do a pretty fun imitation of Kim Gyuri back when she played the evil girl in Glass Slippers, Yurigudu, in 2002. And Kim Gyuri was just so intense and crazy on that show. And again, she plays this intense, crazy person in Green Mother's Club. I think Kim Gyuri just unfairly gets typecasted as this like femme fatale or the pretty face with a crazy brain kind of lady often. Fun fact, Kim Gyuri dated the late actor Kim Joo-hyuk at one point in her life. This show also has the actress Jang Hae-jin, who you all know from the Oscar-winning picture Parasite. She's the woman who played the mother. You also know Jang Hae-jin from the show Crash Landing on You when she plays Tani's mom. Jang Hae-jin is a very versatile actress. I think she's very funny, but she also has a lot of pathos in her performance, which I really appreciate. And finally, you have the actress Chu Min-kyung. You've all seen Chu Min-kyung in the very popular Korean dramas One Spring Night and Something in the Rain. Okay, and she was also in Chirisan. Green Mother's Club, I would say, is a radically feminist show in that it showcases female sexuality in the context of motherhood. When you look at feminist film theory, you see a lot of analysis on how mother archetypes are often very desexualized, right? Like a mother, despite being a mother, which implies a sexual action beforehand, right, is often shown as the Virgin Mary. She's often projected to have immaculate conception, right? And any deviation from that, according to patriarchal logic, is an upset to the social order. But on Green Mother's Club, we see that all women have a past. The show emphasizes that women have a sexual subjectivity, they have desire, and they have secrets. The show also displays the strength in female friendships. Not just the strength, but I would say also the fragility of female friendships. I used to listen to this Korean radio show that used to be on SBS years ago, but they canceled it. It's now an independent podcast called the Songuni and Kim-soo Confidentiality. And back then, when it was a radio show, I remember hearing an actress who was also a mother talk about motherhood politics in child rearing in Seoul. And it was kind of scary the way she put it. So, this actress said that when she sees other fellow mothers, she said that it's important for her to keep in mind that they are not her friends, that they are just other kids' moms. But she said that when she sees other children, it was important to value those children as you value your own. And I was like, okay, I'm down with the sort of communal concept that she's pushing for in the latter part of what she said. But I didn't really like what she said in the beginning, how her default perception is that all other mothers won't look out for one another. They're all just fellow competitors in this whole social schema. And this might sound inhumane to some of you, but I'll offer you some context as to why. And if you guys listen to my first episode of K Drama School, where I cover Sky Castle, you'll know exactly why this woman said what she said, right? The percentage of people in Korea who graduate from high school is 97%. And then the percentage of high school graduates who go to college is 74%. Statistically, relative to the globe, those are very, very high percentages. Okay. So, with the majority of the population that is at least high school educated and then at least college educated in a country that is very small with very few natural resources, the employment rate is not that high. Okay, so South Korea's employment rate is at 65%, and not all college graduates are able to obtain white collar jobs, which is typically their goal. Where does this hyper competitiveness among mothers come from? Okay, these mothers are mothers to very young children, by the way. The kids are in elementary school, if not younger. So, where does all this toxicity come from? Where does all this paranoia and desperation come from? Also, what happens when your children are showing signs of mental instability and fragility, right? Green Mothers Club deals with South Korea's taboos around sexuality, mental illness, hypercompetition, illicit drugs, but it also deals with women's issues such as sexual assault and marriage as a form of prostitution, like you have with Chuni, right? I think that while South Korea is very anti drug abuse, it doesn't have ample compassion for looking at drug addiction as a form of mental illness. Addiction is an illness according to contemporary psychology, but South Korea still condemns a drug addict before considering their health issues. This is because mental health support is still greatly lacking in South Korea. I wrote about this in my own academic research, but South Korea's drug addiction is actually a major result of its hyper competitive society. I know a lot of people in my Korean social network who suffer from insomnia or severe sleep deprivation because of overworking. If you look at K pop idols, a lot of them have drug addictions because they were trying to control their sleep pattern, which is completely destroyed due to their heavy work demands and schedules. And a lot of this reflects somewhat of the Hollywood star system problems as well, especially from the early 1900s. Like if you see that 2019 biopic Judy, right? I think Renee Zellweger portrays Judy Garland. You'll see this play out very vividly, how the star system was controlling their stars through drugs, basically. So, for a society to first cause a mental health issue and then condemn that person for seeking treatment for that very issue is a display of major hypocrisy and inhumanity. And this, again, is another reflection of capitalism and its failures in South Korea. I didn't like the way that Green Mothers Club portrayed people on drugs. They were more like caricatures and not real people, which I think is wrong. I didn't like how Green Mothers Club alienated adoptees and their representation and issues in such a twisted fashion. Like, there was very little to the storyline behind, Louis and his upbringing. He was just written as a fucked up guy, and his flaws are somehow linked to his foreign upbringing, right? Like, there's this sort of mystification of like, oh, like we don't really know who he is and what he is exactly because he's a foreigner. Like, he grew up over there. We don't know what his family tree situation is like. There's all this mystery. And to that, like, I sense this kind of, how do I say, like, is this intra, like intra-xenophobia. I don't know how to exactly put it, but it's a form of xenophobia, I would say. And it's a way of alienating and otherizing adoptees, which I don't think is okay. So, yeah, that was a little too shallow for me. Other than that, I would say that Green Mothers Club is an insightful exploration on contemporary motherhood and women's issues and female friendships about women in their 40s. Today's guest is actress Liz Adams. She is also a mother. She's a new mother, and she is a comedian. She's trained in improv comedy. She's very different from myself, right? Like, she's Korean American, but she's very, very different from myself. I kind of appreciate that difference. You know, she's a lot sweeter than I am. She reminds me of like a Korean American Anne Hathaway, but perhaps softer even. But yeah, talking to her is quite interesting. So let's talk to Liz Adams.
It's dope. I love it. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, I'm excited.
um so yeah, I know you're like a new mom, new
Mm-hmm.
mom. Do you have time to unwind and watch K-dramas?
After she goes to sleep,
Yeah?
um, and sometimes if she takes like a good long nap during the day, but it definitely takes me a lot because I used to like binge and go through them like at lightning speed. Like
Yeah.
I would watch. I think I watched what's that one like Scarlet Heart, like
Yeah.
the IU,
Yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah,
IU
yeah.
one. I think I
Yeah.
watched that one in like 3 days.
That's so interesting you mentioned that show because I was just thinking about that yesterday and I was like, that wasn't the best show, but it was very dark because it was super dark.
Yeah,
And
it
I
was
feel like they
depressing. It had a
I feel like
terrible ending.
they did her dirty, I feel like,
Oh my god, yeah.
right? Because she was just like a regular modern day career woman in the
Yeah,
beginning, and in the end, she dies this horrible
I
death.
know. It was
I
terrible.
was like, why did they do her like that? It wasn't
And they had
necessary.
such like a toxic relationship too. Like
Yeah,
it was just so weird.
on so
And then
many
he has
levels.
this kid that he doesn't even know exists and it's
Yeah.
like
Wh- what's
there's
happening?
so many levels of what the hell going on in that. But I
Like to
watched
me,
it because
yeah.
I'm a really big like Joongi fan. Like I really
Lee
like
Joon-gi, yep,
him.
yep,
I
yep.
think he's really charming and handsome, and I've watched a lot of his
Interesting.
dramas, even if they're not the best dramas.
Yeah, he does a lot of like lawyer shows, right?
Yeah, well, because he can fight too. Like he has
Right.
martial arts background, and so he
Mm-hmm.
does. Like the one I started watching recent. Well, I don't think did. I finish it? I can't even remember what I watched.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did finish it. The Lawless Lawyer. It was like
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
very good, but I liked it
Yeah.
because he was in it.
Uh, I mean, that's why we usually watch shows, right? Like we'll put up with it as long as we love the cast.
Yeah.
And Lee Joon-gi, he was trained as a like in acrobatics. Like
Right, he can do like crazy flips and stuff. He's pretty cool.
yes.
I'm a
So
big
like he
fan.
he initially wanted to be like an acrobat and he was training like all his life doing that when he was young. And
Really?
then like his parents were like, "Where are you taking this? You're
You're
not
just gonna
going
flip
anywhere with
around.
it." Yeah, like they were like, "You suck." And then he auditioned for The King and the Clown, which was a
Oh,
huge
yeah.
movie.
I actually
And
haven't seen that yet, but it's on my
oh,
list.
yeah, you should check that one out because that was his debut, really.
Yeah, and that one's like that's got a little like that's a little gay, right?
Oh, it's a very queer film.
I love it.
It's like a very queer film. That was part of the reason why it was such a big success because it was this queer film.
Right, because
But
he's like this beautiful man.
yeah, yeah, he's like an androgynous dude. I'm pretty sure in actual life he's probably a gay dude. Like I
You
get
think
a
so?
very strong gay vibe from him. But but because he was trained in acrobatics, for that role, he had to do a lot of jumps in the air and splits and all this shit, and that was what he did at the audition that impressed the
That's so great.
director,
Yeah,
and
I'd be
the director was
impressed.
like, that's exactly what we wanted." Like, he did this split in the air, like, all the way, like,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
he
yeah,
did a
wait. I saw that episode where he was on with IU of what's
Uh-huh.
that show where they like are in school uniforms? I can't remember the name of it. It's with all
Was
those
it
like
Happy
guys
to
and
Oh,
comedians.
아는 형님? 아는 형님?
Maybe.
Yeah, Ask Us
Um,
Anything.
yeah, I think so. I forget the name of it, but he was on that show
Or
and he
it's
did the
Men on a
move.
Mission in on Netflix, but yeah, it's called Ask Us
Oh.
Anything. 아는 형님. Knowing Bros.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah, Knowing Bros.
Yeah.
Um, that's so weird that they renamed it at like Men on a Mission?
It has 3 different English names, but the Korean title is 아는 형님. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Knowing Bros. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
I saw him do that on that show because I watched
Yeah.
because he
That
was on it
that
with
was what
IU.
that's what got him the role. But yeah, that show was so dark. I was thinking
So
about that show.
depressing.
It's too depressing. It was too depressing. Like
Yeah,
like gratuitously so. It was like
yeah,
unnecessarily depressing. And I was like,
yeah.
it didn't need to go down like this. But I think it
I know
was
they could
because it
have
was
had
like
it end happily too. Like they
yeah.
chose to just make
Mhm.
everyone so miserable.
It just went like this brutish direction. It's partially because it was like co-produced with like a Chinese company, and like Chinese production companies have a different style of like narrative and plot lines and
Depressing.
storytelling. Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Also, this was like usually Korean dramas they'll shoot like while producing at the same time,
Yeah.
and they take audience right. This they shot it all and put it in the can and then released it. And
Oh.
and it was mostly marketed for like all of Asia. It wasn't really for like
Yeah.
I don't think it was really for like American audiences per se because we like
Oh no, nothing
Disney
is for
endings.
us though.
Yeah, yeah,
But now
yeah,
that K-dramas are getting into like Disney Plus is getting into them, I feel like they're marketing them more toward the international audiences. With I don't know if I am like
yeah.
cuz now we're getting like second seasons of shows, which isn't a thing that they do all the
Uh-huh.
time in Korea,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like I kind of like that
Yeah.
it's just like
Yeah.
one and done usually. But now I'm like, "Oh, I have
Yeah,
to
like a
commit to
compact
another
thing.
season." Ugh.
Sure.
Especially cuz
Yeah, and
it takes me
yeah,
so
go
long to
ahead.
watch them now. It takes me like I really like have to cuz I can't even sit down and watch a full episode usually. It takes me sometimes like 3 days to watch one episode because I'm so busy
Mm,
with the
yeah,
baby. And so
yeah,
I'm trying to work my way
yeah.
through a couple dramas right now that are taking me a really long time because I just like I'm
Yeah.
trying to watch Business Proposal and then Nail, like
Okay.
the one about the Grim
Tomorrow?
Reapers with because I really like
Mhm.
Roan. See, I just like there's
Yeah.
like a boy I like on a drama, and then I'll watch that drama.
That's so interesting that you watched that show because of Roon, because I watched that show because of Kim Sun, because
I mean,
Kim
she's
Sun
great
was
too.
like yeah, like she's like the queen of
Yeah,
K-dramas from our generation. But it like lately they've been pairing a lot of like young male like nobody actors, like people that are known for mostly singing or like modeling other shit, not known for acting. And they've been pairing them with these like queens of K-drama, like,
yeah.
Kim Sun or like, Im Soo-jung or, Song Ye-kyo or whatever. It's very deliberate from the Korean network's
It
part.
makes sense because then
Because
you get a
yeah.
broader audience and you get the young
Mhm.
people or people who
Yes.
aren't as like likely to watch a drama. Because
Exactly.
Rowan has a lot of young
Exactly.
fans because he's an idol, and
Exactly,
so
exactly, and he's a good actor.
he's a
Like,
great actor.
yeah,
Extraordinary
I
You
I
is one of
really
my
like him.
favorite. Um, it is one of
Yeah,
my favorite dramas. I love. It's
yeah,
like calming to me because I also really like the actress that's in it.
mm, yeah.
And then she's got a
I
new
don't think
drama
I
coming
saw
out
that one.
too.
You and I
Oh,
have
it's
kind of
so
different
fun.
tastes in dramas, yeah. Like, you've seen all
I
the ones that I didn't watch, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. It's funny because I don't normally like romances as far as like when I watch American shows, but I really like
Mm,
Korean drama romances.
they're
I
good
don't know
at that.
why.
They're
I'm
really good
just
at that.
because they're different. They're very different than American romance shows. I'm not really into like I don't usually watch like
Rom-coms,
yeah, I don't watch American rom-coms.
yeah.
But I'm very into
You
them in
I was kinda
Korea.
thinking about have you seen, When the Camellia Blooms?
No. Let me look
So
that
Kong
one up.
Hyo-jin is in that, and Kang Han. I was thinking about Scarlet Heart because Kang Han is in Scarlet Heart. He's one of the
Oh, he's one
brothers,
of the
you know.
brothers. Yeah.
Yeah, and Kang Han, he's like he's a pretty good actor. Like he's got acting chops, but on this show, When the Camellia Blooms, he plays this
Oh.
like quirky idiot kind of cop. So this show it blends three genres. It's a rom-com
Oh.
and it blends thriller and like black comedy. It blends these three things in a really interesting way in like a small town. And I'm rewatching this show right now because I'm working on something, and I was like, oh my god, like Kangana is he's like astounding on this fucking show.
Really?
Yeah, Kong Hyo-jin is also in it. And yeah, I mean, I feel like Korean dramas are good, like Korean rom-coms are good because they're kind of working around Korean patriarchy. Like
Mm.
the misogyny and the sexism, misogyny, the pressures, expectations of women are so intense in Korea
Yeah.
that the only real relief that they get is these fictionalized imaginary male fictitious characters on
Yeah.
television. And
Yeah.
genuinely, look at the kinds of men that are exhibited on these shows. I mean, the ones that are desirable. They are like you're not you're fucking not gonna find them in
They don't
reality. They're
exist. They're
just not. They
perfect.
don't
They're
fucking
perfect men.
they're perfect.
Like
They
what was
are
that one
always there
Hometown
for
Cha Cha Cha?
yeah,
Did you
uh-huh,
watch that
another one of
one?
those. Yeah, it's a good one.
That
It's a
one
really
was
good one.
really sweet. That was a really good feel good one that I was
It's
like,
a
"Oh,
very good show.
I
Very good
really
show.
liked that." But he's the perfect man. He's
The perfect man
s-
on
so
every level.
like good, and
Yeah.
men like that just
Yeah.
don't like walk
They don't
around.
exist. They don't exist. But it's like it's similar to how like Hollywood was making these movies like during the like before the Paramount decree, like when all the Hollywood movies were really censored in like the 20s, 30s, 40s. It was like heavily
Oh,
censored by these like Christian white people. And they had like a production code administration, and and Hollywood had to work around those rules all the time. And so that's why
yeah.
Hollywood movies got weird and interesting because they were
Yeah.
working around these rules and rigidity. And I see that parallel in Korean dramas in that Korean writers, and for the most part, these romantic comedy writers are women. About like
Yeah.
80% of K drama rom com writers are women in Korea. And these showrunners are writing around the rigidity of patriarchy and literally saying, like, this is how you guys run Korean society through patriarchal order, and this is how we are writing around it, what you should do the opposite of, or what we would prefer you to not do or to do. And I think
Yeah.
that's why Korean rom-coms are so delightful to watch because
Yeah.
it's like literally they're building a utopic fantasy for a
Yeah.
hetero woman.
That's why I like them so much.
They're
They're great
good.
though. They're so fun. And the romance is
They're
always so
good.
sweet and innocent. And like, you know, I'm really like I'm kind of a goody goody at heart, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like I grew up a
Yeah.
church girl and like I'm not really a church girl anymore, but like it that like the remnants are still there that I'm very like I don't generally like like American shows that have a lot of sex or like those kind of adult themes. I'm just like they don't interest me. Like that's just
Hmm.
how I am. Like I haven't watched Bridgerton because I heard that it had a lot of sex and I'm like I'm just not really into that. And like
Interesting.
no shade against
Yeah.
people who are and like who enjoy that kind of stuff, but I think
Yeah.
because I grew up so like reserved cuz my parents
Uh-huh.
would literally like I remember cuz I would like watch Dawson's Creek or something and like I
Uh-huh.
remember that like if something like steamy came up my parents would literally like cover my eyes. They'd be like, "No, you
Wow.
can't look at this." So I
And how
still
old
think
were you? Like
I was in high school. This is gonna date me.
a grown woman, a grown bitch.
Practically. But my
Mm.
parents are still, and I'm still like, I won't watch things with my parents in the room that contain any adult themes because I'm like, I know that they're gonna be like, "What are you watching?" Even though I'm like a grown woman with a child. Like, how do you think I made
So
this
they
baby,
shame
mom
you
and
about
dad?
sex.
Oh,
There's a lot of
100%.
sexual repression. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
But
grew up
I
in a
don't
Korean church.
right. But I mean, that's also like a very American mentality, like being like
Yeah.
it's a Christian mentality. Let's be specific.
Yeah.
It's a capitalist Christian mentality to
Mhm.
be sexually repressed and it's like I don't know of a single person where they would want to watch a sex scene with their parents in the room. It's
Huh.
just not it's just not like something anybody feels comfortable doing, you
It's
know?
weird.
Um yeah, and m- actually there's this comedian Jackie Monahan, she's hilarious. She has a really good joke. Like whenever she and her parents are watching a movie and a sex scene comes on, she always tells them, "Oh my God, this is my favorite part." But it's like I think that's like general. But yeah, I think Korean parents have somewhat of like a double sort of like an expounded sexual repression
Yeah.
because first of all, sex is always eliminated for the most part, like eliminated from Korean television.
Oh,
Like
yeah. They're like not
Korean
allowed
television
to do
is
that kind of stuff, right?
well, they're allowed, and there's actually like, a lot of affairs and implications of sex out of wedlock and all of that. It's there in Korean dramas. That's never not been there. It's there, but they do sort of they sanitize it, right? Like you'll never see
Yeah.
nudity in Korean television. That's the thing. You're never gonna see two people going at it like really fucking, like huffing and puffing and like
No,
taking their
never. Actually,
that's
you know what
never
like drama that had sex in it that really surprised me was what
mhm.
was the one? Nevertheless. That one surprised
Hmm.
me. Have you watched that
Mhm.
one?
I
Cuz I
haven't.
was like they have sex and it's
Yeah.
kind of like shocking a little cuz they don't
Yeah.
obviously they don't like show it, but they
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
show more than any other drama, I would say.
They
And it
show
was
enough.
they show enough that it's like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah. There's a really good show called The World of the Married, and in that there's also
Oh
some
yeah, I
like pretty
saw
steamy scenes.
oh my goodness,
Yeah,
scandalous. But
yeah.
it is surprising. I
Yeah.
think that especially cuz Netflix has a more international audience, I wonder if they're like
Yeah.
being more open about that. Oh, and in Squid Game,
Yeah.
they have like a real sex
Okay,
scene in
so
that.
this is the difference. If it's a Netflix production, like Squid Game is a Netflix production, meaning it has zero distribution in Korea on Korean television.
Yeah. It's
So
not like
anything
on
goes. Anything goes. But in Korea, if it's produced for TVN or JTBC or KBS
yeah.
or MBC or SBS, then they cannot have any cursing, they cannot have any real nudity or fucking. It's like no. Even if it's a cable channel, like TVN and JTBC, these are cable
Yeah.
channels in Korea, but that's still they still it's still on television and they're like that means children can access it and that means we are never going to ever
Isn't
ever
that
air
so
nudity or
interesting?
cursing.
Cuz like when you go to Europe, there's just straight up nudity on like normal
Yeah,
TV cuz they just
and
like don't
cursing.
care. And people don't
Yeah,
care. Nobody's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh." They're just not scandalized by it. They're like, "Yeah, whatever,
That's
it's a boob."
why that's why I say this is an American Christian belief, and South Korea is a neo-colony to the US, so that's
Yeah.
why they take steps after America's censorship kind of traditions and standards. But if it's streaming on an internet show, then yeah, like anything really goes.
But it's still
Um,
like it still surprises me, cuz I'm just like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
because we grew up on like more sanitized shows that were on not cable channels, but on like public broadcast shows like networks like SBS, KBS,
yeah.
NBC. KBS is a public, it's like PBS. KBS is PBS.
Yeah.
NBC is like more of a commercial channel, and then SBS is a totally commercial channel. But even back in like the 80s and 90s, or more 90s because SBS came out in the 90s. If you look at those three networks, you could even see slight
You know so much about
differentiations in
Korean
terms
media.
of
I'm so impressed.
it's because I have a PhD in Korean media studies. Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, I didn't
That's
know
why.
that. Girl,
Oh,
that's
okay,
so
that's funny.
cool.
So if you look at KBS and NBC and SBS, you could see the difference in terms of like what kind of content they're releasing. Like KBS is super sanitized because it's like public broadcasters. So they're like, oh, it has to be suitable for children. It has to be informative. It has to serve a cultural and educational function. NBC,
Mm,
they're a little bit more loose. So they kind of do 50-50. And then SBS, they'll try to do like way more scandalous stuff because they're like, we're a
yeah.
commercial broadcaster and
What was
anything
Sky
kind of
Castle
goes.
on?
Sky Castle's JTBC, so that's cable. Yeah.
Mm.
Did you like that show?
I loved Sky Castle. It
It
was
is amazing, right?
crazy. There were
I
so
love that
m
show.
it was so like, that was one of, because I didn't actually watch a ton of Korean dramas when I was
Yeah.
young.
Oh,
And
okay, interesting.
I watched a few, like, here and there, but I wasn't, like,
Yeah.
as into them as I got really into them in the pandemic because we just had so much time, and I probably watched, like,
Oh, wow.
20 dramas in, like, a year, just, like, all the way through. I just was like, "Ah,
Wow.
more, 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 give me more," and I went
Yeah.
crazy just
Yeah.
watching it all day because I was also
Yeah.
pregnant, and so all I did was
Yeah.
sit on my ass and watch Korean dramas. It's
Yeah.
literally my pregnancy, like, activity was watching Korean dramas. Korean
What
dramas.
got you hooked into watching K-dramas specifically during that pandemic period?
Um, it's hard to say specifically. I think,
Yeah.
like, as a Korean person, there's so much cultural, like, there's just so much about Korean culture that, like, just appeals to me because it's, like, relatable to me, and there's sometimes a lot of, like, American media that's not as relatable as Korean media can be.
Oh. Mhm.
Just from, like, a sensibility point of view, like, just my parents are from Korea and my relatives are from Korea, and so they're just,
Mhm.
the way that people do things, the way that they talk about things is more Korean than American, even though my parents are American citizens, you know.
Mhm.
um and also what I really really love about Korean dramas is they go high concept, and I think that American TV is still, like, really afraid of doing a lot of things, like, um all of the, like, the magic and the, like Hotel Del Luna and, like, Goblin and stuff like that. Those are shows that if they were made in American media, they'd be like on Sci-Fi Channel. They wouldn't be very high budget. They wouldn't have stars, you
Hmm.
know. They'd
Mm.
be like not good shows. They would-
Mm.
Not that there are no
Mm.
good shows on Sci-Fi Channel, but you know what I mean? Like, but
Yeah.
they have support in Korea, and I really like that. And so I like watching, like, Extraordinary You is really high concept. They, like, live in a graphic novel. Like, that's the concept of it, and
Mm.
I loved that.
Mm.
And then
Yeah.
um I just love that. And, like, Sky Castle was one of the first ones that I watched in the pandemic that got me, like, going crazy.
Yeah.
And that one is just so, like, so many omo. We call it, my friends and I that watched all the because we also, like screen shared, like, watched a lot of dramas in the pandemic together, like me and two of my friends. And
Yeah.
we call them omo dramas because, like, if they make you go omo,
Mhm.
then, like, that's an omo drama.
Mhm.
Sky Castle is 100% an omo drama
Yeah,
because
yeah,
also
yeah.
there's so many slaps in it. Like, per episode, there's probably,
Yeah.
like, at least 2 slaps per episode, and I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
slapping, I like to see some slaps. I like to.
Yeah.
That drama is
Like
insane.
when
But
I was
also,
actually in Korea when that
mm,
show was airing. It was airing
really,
so I was watching it in real time. It was in the fall of 2018, and I was like in my kitchen and I was kind of like watching and not watching. I was like, okay, it's like another one of these like education obsessed women. Da, 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 da. I was like,
right,
okay,
right.
whatever. And then the ending of that pilot episode when the lady shoots her head off, I was like
Oh my gosh,
screaming in my kitchen and
right?
I was like, this show is amazing.
This show is hardcore. Well, it's funny too because my dad went to Seoul National University, and that is something that I didn't quite understand because my mom brings it up at
Yeah.
every single chance she can,
It's a
like,
bragging right. Yeah.
anytime. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
understand it. And then when I watched Sky
Mm.
Castle, I was like, oh, that's a big deal because my dad and all his brothers went there, and that's, like, such a huge deal, I guess. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I get why
Yeah.
my mom brags about it all the time. Like, my
Yeah. Yeah.
has
That's
spins.
also that also explains why your father would cover your eyes at Dawson's Creek because he and his whole family went to Seoul National University. It's like
Really?
I could see the rigidity and conservatism like right there already. I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah,
Mhm.
this is intense." But yeah,
Yeah.
like it's a real thing. Sky is of course, Seoul National, Korea University in Yonsei. And it's like Korea is such a saturated nation when it comes to education because the majority of the population are literate. They read. Okay, that's a
Mhm.
huge deal. Not many countries have that high of a demographic that are literate. The other issue is most of the people living in Korea graduated high school.
Yeah.
Majority of them end up going to college, which means most of the people in South Korea who are young, they are educated. So it's
Yeah.
like the country is fucking small.
Yeah.
Where do these people go and get jobs? And that fear is driving them to these kinds of
Oh yeah, the
extremities,
job market
you
is
know?
crazy. That's actually part of what Rowan's new drama Tomorrow is about, where he's trying to get a job, and those job interviews are really intense, and they do like those panel interviews and like all this stuff. But that's where the like believability drops for me because I'm like, Rowan, you are so handsome. There's no way you wouldn't get a job at a top company immediately. Like that
Probably,
man
yeah,
is
yeah,
like
yeah.
6'2" and so handsome. Like
He's
people
really
would be
hot,
like,
yeah.
he's so handsome. He's a really great
Yeah,
singer. He can dance okay, but he can
yeah,
his
yeah,
he's very multi-talented. I'm a big stan.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you have that kind of look, then yeah, you're gonna make it in the industry. Like you could start out as a model, you could be a K-pop star,
Really?
and you'll
Like
eventually end up
you just have
acting.
to be
Yeah,
beautiful and you'll be
yeah.
successful
Just gotta look hot.
yeah, successful in Korea. I
Yeah,
wish it were
yeah,
like
yeah.
that
You just gotta
here.
be hot.
You can be hot here and
Why?
not successful, but you can't be like that in Korea. If you're hot, you're successful in Korea.
Really? You think so? You think you don't have to be, I mean, you can be hot here and not be successful?
Yeah. Ton of hot stupid people don't have
I mean, I
jobs.
don't think oh, well, I mean, no. I mean, you could still be stupid and get jobs, I feel like, Don't you think?
Here? Yeah, but
Yeah.
I do feel like Hollywood wise, like there are a ton of really like good-looking talented people that aren't working
Yeah.
because there are so many other beautiful talented people.
Oh, okay, I see what you
Do you
mean.
know what I'm
Okay.
saying? There's so
But
many beautiful
the
talented people in
opposite,
America.
yeah. The opposite is also true. A lot of stupid people who are also not even that hot get a lot of jobs in
Well,
this
that's because their
industry, wouldn't you
parents are
say?
rich.
Oh, really? Oh,
I feel
that's
like if your
interesting.
parent is someone, then you can get a job. If you're beautiful and you have a rich parent, then you're set in America.
Okay, you have to have those two qualities then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Interesting. Mm. So you say you grew up in Michigan?
Yeah, I'm from the suburbs of Metro Detroit.
Oh, okay. And do you have siblings?
I have an older brother.
Oh, you have an
He's
older brother.
mm-hmm. Does that
Is
surprise
he in
you? I
show
feel like I
business?
have no, not at all. He's like an engineer or something.
Oh, okay. Is
It's
your
like the
dad an
joke that I
engineer?
never know. No, my dad actually my dad had a degree in sociology and then he worked in that for a little bit, but
Oh,
then when we came along, they owned some businesses and my dad did real estate for a while. And
fascinating,
now he just
fascinating.
plays golf.
Because he's
That's
retired.
what he. Yeah. He just plays golf.
Uh,
He tried
there
to get
actually
me
there,
into golf. What were you going to say?
yeah. No, I was gonna say, Seoul National has a respectable sociology department, and
Oh,
yeah,
that's good to
they're
know.
actually quite well
See,
known
I'm
for
like
their
learning about
sociology.
my parents through Korean dramas
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's so great.
Well, you just learned that from me, not through Korean
But
drama. That I just
this
said
is
that Korea has
a
a
Korean
good
drama
sociology department.
podcast. And
Oh,
so
I see.
by
Everybody gets this podcast name wrong. Like when PK was
what did he call
introing me
it? The
that night,
K-pop
he called it
something?
he called it a K-pop something. And then on Friday, somebody was introing me to stage, and she was like, she hosts a podcast called K Drama. I'm like, no, I don't. It's K-drama school. It's more specific than that. But it's like, is K-drama school genuinely, is it hard to remember? Is K-drama school a hard title to remember? I
No,
feel like it's straightforward. It's
I think
weird. There are
people
these
are just
blockages when it comes to
yeah.
English, I think. Yeah, yeah, yeah. English and like non-English things. Anyway, yeah, no, Seoul National is a really impressive sociology department, and yeah, so that's impressive. I actually love sociologists. I think they're like some of the most intelligent people in arts and humanities fields, and like they have a real good understanding of like the social grid and the map and hierarchy and how things function. And I
Well,
don't think they
because
get a lot of credit for what
well,
they
because
do.
people as a group act really differently than individuals do, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the thing. Isn't the saying like individual people are smart, but groups of people are stupid? Like
Mm,
we behave very differently, and I feel like a lot of that has come out during the pandemic too. Like you see how people as a group
yeah,
behave, and we're not doing
yeah,
a good job. Like
yeah,
we did
yeah.
a pretty bad job in this country for as far as the pandemic goes.
Yeah.
Oop.
Other than incubating a child and
Mm-hmm.
watching Korean dramas, like what were some of the things that you were working on for your own self, like during the pandemic? Because it was like a period of lockdown, right? It was a period of
Yeah.
like you're trapped with yourself, and there's this deep introspection period. Like, was there anything within yourself that you were like, oh, this is something I find myself currently working on or thinking about? Was there any of that?
I think at the beginning I was pretty productive. Um, like I feel like I wrote a lot. Like I have a couple pilots that I worked on.
Yeah.
And then I think as soon as I got pregnant, I just went into like mom mode, and then I
Mm.
like went crazy nesting, and like I watched that I watched that show Get Organized with the Home Edit. Are you familiar with the show? It's kind of like, you know how Marie Kondo, that show was very like calming, like she goes to everyone's
Yeah.
houses and like or helps them
Uh-huh.
organize their lives. It's
Yeah.
kind of like that, but like for basic white women.
Oh.
And like because I grew up in the Midwest, I can be a basic white woman at heart, I feel like
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
um and that really I went crazy. I got all these like organizer things and like organized my pantry and got all these like clear plastic bins to like put my
Yeah.
fruit in. It was very like
Yeah.
it was a little
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
intense.
Yeah.
And then I
Okay.
just got really big on that.
Yeah.
And then
So, yeah, I guess it does
once
kind
the
of
baby
like
came,
consume your mind, like when you're expecting another family member who,
yeah,
you're responsible for, then yeah, I guess it does like take over. But like when you were
yeah.
doing that, then was there anything about yourself that you found changing, or that you were like, oh, this is different or this is new? Was there anything like that that was coming to you?
Uh, maybe not while I was pregnant, but
Mm-hmm.
after she came, I feel like a really different person now in a lot of aspects. Like I'm
Mm,
my husband and I joke about it. And he's too nice to like say it, but I'm
mm,
a much better like wife. like like I'm
mm,
nicer to him. I like take
mm-hmm,
care of him more. I like cook for him. I clean, and like I didn't really used to do that kind of stuff cuz
mm.
I'm the youngest. I'm the baby.
Yeah,
But then once our
right.
baby came, I was already taking care of her so much that it just became second nature to also take care of him. And so it's
Oh,
just like really weird. I never imagined that I would be like this person.
domestic.
But yeah, I've become really domestic, but I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy it. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's really weird. It's just not who. If you met me before I got pregnant, you'd be like, oh, yeah. Because literally, my husband used to travel for work a lot, and he would go out of town, and I'd be like, help, I'm not eating. I'm just eating ramyeon every meal. Like, I need. And my friends would literally be like, Liz, you need to eat better. Like, they would like, we would go out to eat because they were like worried about me because I would just like eat shit.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
terrible.
Like not cook for yourself and none of that.
No. It's so
Yeah.
hard. That's so much
It's a lot of
work.
work. It is a lot of work. Being domestic is so much work.
Yeah.
I when I was in Korea, like the last time I was in Korea, I spent a week with my maternal grandparents. They're like very elderly now. But I just spent 1 week with them and all I did was cook them 3 meals a day. That's all I did. I didn't do anything else. I wasn't working. I wasn't They didn't even have fucking internet, so like I was offline. All I did
Oh my
was cook them
gosh.
3 meals a day. That took up the whole fucking day. The whole day.
Whoa.
And also I'm
That is
cooking
a lot
Korean
of
food,
work.
right? So you have to have
Yeah,
like
Korean food
soup and
takes
like banchan and pop,
Oh my gosh.
the whole thing.
Now
Yeah.
that I'm like actually like caring for a child, I'm like I cannot
Yeah.
believe my mom made food for us on top of taking care of us. Cuz even when I
Yeah.
you're supposed to eat like miyeokguk and stuff after you have a kid, like
Yeah.
that's a very
Mhm.
Korean, like if
Yep.
you're listening and you don't know what I'm talking about, that's a very
Yeah.
like after you have a baby. I actually looked
Yeah.
this up
Yeah.
because we had a 100
Yeah.
days celebration for my daughter, and it still
Yeah.
feels weird to say my daughter, but we had like a big, well, not a big thing. I just dressed her up and we had like a Zoom party because I was like, ain't nobody getting near my baby yet.
Right,
But
right, right.
they would like hole you up after you had a baby because so many of those babies like died, and it was a very dangerous time for the women too
Uh-huh.
back in the day because it was
Uh-huh.
like we didn't have modern medicine, and a lot of
Uh-huh.
people died back then, so you would like
Yeah.
hole up, you wouldn't see anyone, and then they would
Uh-huh.
just like feed you miokguk because like it's seaweed soup. And my mom
Uh-huh.
came after the baby came and she fed me like a queen. She got like
Yeah.
galbi and like she made me
Yeah.
miokguk from scratch, and she was just like
Yeah.
feeding me so well. But I don't
Yeah.
know if listeners know this too, but when you make breast milk, you need to consume
Yeah.
a lot of calories in order to
Yeah.
make food from your body. And so, like, I was
Mhm.
eating like there were two of me. I was
Yeah.
so hungry all the
Mhm.
time when I was
Yeah.
breastfeeding. It was
Yeah.
crazy. But my
Yeah, yeah,
mom
yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
loved it. My mom was like, you need to eat more. You need to eat more. And she was making me so much food. And I was like, I cannot believe that this is like a thing she used to do all the time when I was little. Because it takes so much
Yeah.
work.
It does take a lot of work, and also, what you're bringing up is like kind of this like communal effort to take care of a mother and her child because yeah, it's very typical and traditional for a mother. They call it 몸푼다. So a mother will
Mm.
take care of her daughter after she's given birth, meaning like helping her relieve her body or getting her body to adjust into motherhood. And that adjustment ritual is really, really sacred and important. Even having miyeokguk is a very indigenous kind of like Korean culture.
Mhm.
You know, miyeokguk, if technically, miyeokguk has nothing to do with blood. It has
No.
nothing to do with it. But it's a indigenous sort of linking. It's a tie to like a Korean cultural root and from a mother to child thing. And that's why also on, your birthday, a mother will make miyeokguk. It's
Mm.
like this remembrance of where you come from, how you're tied to the
Oh,
mother,
I
right?
really love
So
that.
miyeokguk is very, very, it's like it's part of that whole mother to mother ritual, mother to daughter,
Yeah.
but mother to mother ritual. And it's like kind of, it's like it's rite of passage for you going
Yeah.
from her daughter to becoming another mother, right? So yeah, it's
Aw.
it's very important. But there's also like a lot of gaps, if you think about like Korean adoptees, for instance, they don't have that phase.
Mm.
And like I mean, you got to be mindful of the gratitude that one has, right? To have a mother who like fucking helps you pig out, right? So that
Oh
you could
yeah.
be the best mother for your child by
Yeah.
producing something very, physical, which is milk, so that you and your child can not only nourish your child, but you have this bond, right? Physical
Yeah.
bond.
Oh, I
But yeah,
love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's
Were you like,
really
did you get hungry a lot when you were breastfeeding? Like, did you
Oh
feel
yeah,
the
that's like
hunger?
yeah, you like keep snacks by your like little station too. Cause like I would wake up and like feed her in the middle of the night and I would be starving. So I'm like a little
Wow.
gremlin by my bed. Like
That's
chowing down on
fascinating.
Cliff Bars. And then it's just like
Wow.
calories, put them in there, you know? Cause
Yeah.
making milk is a really labor intensive process. I don't really
It's
know
a
how it
job.
works, but it is. It's so much work.
I don't know how it
But
works.
I don't know
Maybe
how it
maybe that's why
works.
cows are eating all the time. Yeah.
Maybe
You
just
know, we
munching.
take their milk all the time, so they're always chewing. They're always eating, right? Cows are always eating. It's like,
That's me. That was
yeah,
me
you're
when I
going through a
first
cow
popped that
phase.
baby on. I went through my cow phase. I did. I had a big cow phase. But that's I really
That's
like that. Like how that sentiment about that because I want to be able to recreate that for my daughter now that I have her. I want to make her
oh
miyeokguk and I
yeah,
want to carry on
you
all those
will.
Korean traditions, cuz like I'm
Yeah.
I'm very like Korean American.
Uh-huh.
I'm very American as much as I am
Yeah.
Korean, and
I
I
know. I
find
hear it in
myself.
your voice.
No, you can tell. And this is a very like Michigan
Yeah.
Korean kind of thing. Like the way that I pronounce
Yeah, yeah,
thing is
yeah.
very like specifically Midwest
Oh.
Korean. Like cuz
Okay. Mm.
are you from New York? Are you from
I'm from
LA?
New York, but I'm from New York. I'm from New York, but I was born in Busan. So I'm not
Oh, that's
I'm
where
Korean
my mom is
American, but I'm
from.
also an immigrant. Oh, really? That's awesome. Tell her I
Yeah.
said
Do your
hello.
parents have saturi then? I will.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
So my mom has a really like hers is a little more slight, but then when we go back to Korea and she gets with her
It
sisters,
comes out.
then it
It
comes
comes
out.
out.
But their saturi is really
Yeah.
strong. But I guess like I'm
Yeah.
not very good at Korean, but the little Korean I speak, my cousins make fun of me because sometimes it's with saturi because like and I didn't know, but because my
Yeah.
mom would always be like "빨리 먹어 가자." Like that's how my mom talks. She does the "ai" at the end of everything, and like it's very sing-songy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And my relatives are very Saturi, and so it's funny because like I love the Busan accent though, because that's my family.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I can't wait to bring my
Yeah.
daughter to Korea. I'm so
Yeah, that's gonna
excited.
be so special. Yeah.
Yeah.
When was the last time you went to Korea?
We went in like 2018, I think.
Okay.
We went
I
for
was there
our
during that time.
2018 or 20 it was before couple yeah 2018 I think because we went
Oh.
for our 10-year anniversary and I
Mm.
introduced my husband to all my cousins and stuff and then we went to Japan also.
Oh, nice. Nice.
um
That sounds
I
fun.
really love Korea. Ugh, I
Me
wanted to go
too.
back last year and then I got pregnant
Yeah.
and it was still a pandemic, so I was like, okay, never mind.
Mm.
I'll wait.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's
But
always gonna be there. You know, we can always go whenever. It'll always be there. But yeah,
how often
I
do you
love
go?
Korea too. I love Korea so much, but when I was living there, I was there for like 3 months just for research purposes, and I was living there, and at a certain point, I started having like nightmares, and I was like, yeah, I know I
Oh,
can't live in Korea because it's a
we
very
would be
stifling
very different
society.
people if we grew up in Korea. Like
Oh, a
even
hundred
my
percent.
even my cousins who are more, I would say more like they're pretty Western as far as like a couple of my cousins came here to study and like
Mhm.
a lot of them are fluent in English and so it's like
Mhm. Mhm.
really nice
Yeah.
for me because I don't speak Korean very
Right.
well. But
Right. Right.
even they think I'm insane. They just
Yeah.
think I'm like so wild because I'm like a very
And
like
you're not, like,
I mean
relative to what I've
I
seen.
am,
You're
but
not. You're
I'm like
pretty great.
excitable
Yeah.
and like very like
Yeah.
animated, but like I
Yeah, yeah,
laugh
yeah.
loud with my mouth wide open and I'm like I like
Okay.
dance
Sure.
around, when I'm in the
Yes,
store.
yes.
And
You're
they think
expressive. Yeah.
yeah, they
Yeah.
think I'm insane and they love it,
Yeah.
but they're also like, "Oh my gosh, our cousin
Yeah.
from America is just so crazy." It's just
Yeah.
like
The laugh thing is for sure real, cause like, I have a pretty loud laugh too, but I noticed when I was in Korea, every time I would laugh like that,
people look
people
at
would
you.
turn their heads and look
Yeah.
at me.
They're like, "Who's this
Cause
crazy
they don't
bitch?"
think they don't think a woman should be that loud.
No, or
Like,
you're not you
I
have
am
to like laugh
super
covering your
loud.
mouth and
You have to silent laugh, and that to me is like it's like constipation. It's like, why would you wanna do that to yourself?
yeah,
Like,
you can't
when I
hold it
was
in.
growing up, I was al I was always loud. I was always loud, like, expressive, say what's on my mind, and that was a nightmare.
Same.
to everybody. They're like, "What the hell are you doing? You have to
Yeah.
shut up. You're too loud. You're too loud. You have to shut up." And I'm like, like, because I was shamed of that, like, so much that I thought that there was something chronically wrong with me, and I had to
Oh, I
reach a
don't
certain
like that.
point. But that's the reality. That's what happens when you keep telling a
Yeah.
kid to shut up and be quiet and you're too loud and there's something wrong with you. They're gonna grow up thinking that, aren't they?
Hmm.
So now I'm in this profession where I'm a comedian, and it's like there's no better place to be exactly what I am and who I am without any
Yeah.
shame but full
Yeah.
adoration than on the
Yeah, people
stage,
love
right?
it because that's who you are,
That's
and you're
what
bringing your
that's what
authentic self
you're
to
built for.
stage. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, it's like when Koreans do that, they're trying to compartmentalize you and make you into something that you're not.
Yeah.
Again, that's patriarchal expectations. Women should be
Yeah.
quiet. Women should only talk when they're spoken to. Women should not be loud. And it's like, well, no, actually, that's not really the case. And that's also kind of the reason why when you're watching these Korean dramas, a lot of these female protagonists, right? They're pretty fucking
They're
wild, aren't
like
they? Like,
yeah, they're like wild and like they misbehave or they're like breaking
yeah,
stuff or they're committing these like crazy faux pas and it's like it's
yeah,
fun to live vicariously through that cuz they're often so
yeah.
reckless and it's really fun.
Uh-huh.
I like that. And
It
then the
is.
men are the more like reserved, kind of like stoic, like my like that's
Yeah.
funny though because also it really mirrors my relationship with my husband cuz he's very
Mm.
like calm, like at least when we're out in
Mhm.
public. He lets loose when we're at home, but like he's very like
Uh-huh.
calm and composed when we're in public, and I'm just like la 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 la. Like we're very very different. But I
Like
always joke
introvert,
though, like
extrovert.
yes, but I always joke back to like what you were saying about um like the Korean patriarchal like expectations of
Mhm.
women, like
Mhm. Mhm.
because I did not marry a Korean man. He's half white
Uh-huh.
and half Filipino.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um and uh sometimes people be like, "Oh, he's not Korean." And I'm like, "Korean men have never liked me. Korean men have never tried to date me." Because can you imagine bringing me home to a Korean mother and me being like, "안녕하세요!" like just like excited, like I'm not the woman that Korean moms want you to marry. Like I'm pretty, sure. That's one thing. You'll have good-looking children, but
Uh-huh.
other than
Yeah.
that, I don't have a lot of qualities that
Mm.
Korean moms are looking for in a daughter-in-law. Especially
Mm.
cuz I like didn't cook, I didn't clean, like all
Okay.
those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Korean men
Yeah,
not
maybe.
interested in
I mean,
dating me.
yeah, I think it really depends, like I think there's some, not all, maybe a very small minority of Korean mothers who would be okay with a daughter-in-law who doesn't necessarily cook or clean. Like there's a small minority of them, sometimes they just want like a gal pal, it's like they had a son all their lives, they want another, you know, they want a daughter-in-law who is like cute and funny and aegyo, like you kind of fit the bill in that regard to me. So I don't really think it's that Korean men don't like you. I'm sure there are plenty of Korean men who would like you. I think it's just that, you and your husband were the ones that were supposed to be together, and that's why you attracted each other, and now you're married and you have this kid. So yeah, I don't see you as somebody that wouldn't quite fit a Korean coupling. Yeah, I guess that's my point. But anyway, that's just my opinion. Um, I do this on all of my podcast episodes. I pick a show and then I ask a series of questions based on the show, like the scene and the character and what you would do if you were this person in this
Oh,
situation. Okay, so
oh,
it's like
okay.
very simple, like improv stuff, like just have
Fun.
fun with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's say okay. The show I'm going to talk about is called Green Mothers Club, and it's on
Okay.
Netflix. It's like a mom show, but it's highly entertaining. Okay, so let's say you're a woman named Eunpyo. You have a PhD in fine
Okay.
art and aesthetics. Okay, you're trying to get a
Okay.
tenure track position at a university, but it's super competitive. All right, and all the higher ups, they hate you. They think you suck. Okay,
Oh
you're also
no.
a mother to two young boys. All right, one is a very hyperactive boy. He's like 6 years old. His name's Dongseok. He's your older son. Your younger son is Cheung. He's 4 and he's still kind of a baby. And you guys, as a family with your husband, recently moved to a brand new neighborhood. It's like one of these ritzy, shishi neighborhoods.
Mhm.
Everybody's like super shallow and judgmental, okay? And the mothers there
Okay.
are catty and political as fuck. They all judge you, okay? They question your son's behavior. They're like, oh, he's a piece of shit because the mother is all fucked up, okay? One day at a birthday party, all right, there's this girl named Yurim. It's a birthday party. Your son, Dongseok, the older son, he accidentally trips over and breaks a girl's $3,000 violin. All right. And she's the daughter of a woman named Chunhee, who is like she's like the head honcho
Oh
mom in that neighborhood.
no.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Oh no.
yeah. And she's like everybody respects her and loves her because she's like super hot. She's hot shit, and she's the wife of a doctor. And she's super pissed at you. What do you do?
Oh my gosh. I mean, what a nightmare. I
Yeah,
would honestly grovel. I would be like, "Oh my god. You offer to pay for it, you
right.
know.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
You have to,
Mm-hmm.
like that's and like just apologize profusely.
Mm,
I don't know what else you can do in that situation.
yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't scold my son though because
Mm-hmm.
kids are just being kids. I
Yep.
don't think
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
have no concept of the value of a $3,000 violin.
They don't know what they're doing. They're just being a child. Okay. So you would just
It's a
apologize.
really expensive violin.
Yeah, 3 grand.
That's
Fuck. For a kid.
a lot for one violin for a
Yeah.
kid.
For a little
Kids
toddler.
are crazy. But yeah, I think I would just that's ridiculous. First of all, that's ridiculous. But second of all, I would definitely be very, very apologetic
Okay.
and feel really bad. But
Okay. All right. Yeah.
what
Okay.
happens?
Basically what you say. What you say happens. Let's say you're Eunpyo again. Okay?
Hmm.
When you were in graduate school in Paris, you met a Korean
Ooh.
French man, okay? He's an adoptee, Korean adoptee. His name's Louis. So fine. Oh my God. And you guys were, pretty hot and heavy. You guys were in a relationship.
Okay.
It was pretty heated. But one day, your childhood friend Jinha shows up on the day of your graduation, swoops in, and steals him away. And she starts dating him. She marries him, has a son with him.
Mm.
Okay. All right. And then you guys lost touch over the years. But suddenly, Jinha and Louis just moved into your building. And even though you
I
feel
gotta watch
pretty
this
betrayed,
drama. This feels like a
even though
this is a Omo drama.
it is. Uh, even though you feel pretty betrayed by Jinha, she still calls you her best friend. What do you do?
I mean, first of all, you don't do that to your best friends, okay? But I'm so personally, I am actually a very forgiving person, and
Mm.
I did have a high school. This was high school, so it was like way different stakes. I had a girl steal my boyfriend, and I forgave her. I was like chill about it because I was like 15, but I was like okay with it
Wow.
because I was like,
Wow.
you know, hoes before bros. Hold on, you have to see this. Look at my
Hi,
baby.
baby. So cute. She's smiling.
She's so cute. Look at this
I
sweetie.
like her little bow.
Honey. Hi. You're so cute. Are you gonna go on a walk with daddy? Are you gonna walk with Appa? Okay, have fun,
So
honey.
cute.
Okay. Um
that, that was awesome. Little
She's so cute.
guest appearance.
But I
So okay,
I
yeah.
am incapable of holding a grudge, basically. I would
Wow.
honestly probably forgive her and hang out with her. Cuz
Okay.
also I'm married with children at this point too, right? So I
Yes.
think it's kind of
Yes.
like the past is the past. I'm glad you
Right.
found your person and I found my person and it's okay. Like
Yeah.
I
Okay.
personally that is probably what I would do, which is
Yeah.
not very
Yeah.
exciting for a K-drama, huh?
Yeah. But I mean that is the healthier route. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. That's dope. Let's say you're the same woman again. Okay, you're Eunpyo again.
Okay.
Uh while all these women are bad mouthing your son Dongseok, they're calling him an idiot. They say he's behavior flawed. Turns out, turns out, Dongseok, your oldest son, is a child prodigy. Okay, he he is barely in elementary school, but he can solve math problems that are at middle school, high school, if not college level. All the professionals around you tell you that your son is extremely gifted. And now
Wow.
all the women who badmouthed you are showing their curiosity about your child education methods. What do you do?
I think I have a forgiving heart except for when it comes to my children. I think
Oh,
like
okay.
cuz
Mm,
if you mess with my child, mm-mm.
yeah. Mama bear comes out.
uh yeah, I think so. I think that I would
Mm-hmm.
I think that I would play it nice on the surface because like you'd have to in this I
Sure.
imagine in this environment you have to have like a
Yeah.
level of like civility to survive in
Yeah.
this. But I
There's
definitely
that.
wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be friendly. I wouldn't be like, "Oh yeah, come on over. We're best
Yeah.
friends now." I'd be like, "No, you talk shit about my son." Like,
Yeah.
mm-mm. So I
Yeah.
think I would just like play it kind of cool and just like
Mm,
not be super helpful, but not be mean about it. But I would
okay.
not be like, okay, you're forgiven. I'd be like,
Yeah. I
get
kind of I
out of
kind of
here.
like that. Yeah,
Get out
yeah.
of here
I
with
kind of
that.
like that. You have a good
Mm-mm.
sense of boundaries and a good sense of self-respect. Okay, I dig it. Okay. All right, this is going to get a tad dark, but it's
Uh
okay.
oh.
We can make it. All right? All right. So, let's say you're Eunpyo again.
Okay.
The girl, Yubin, the girl whose violin that your son broke, all
Right.
right, she's like the most competitive girl in that neighborhood, all right? Because she's the daughter of this fucking monstrous lady,
Right.
all right? Who's
Yeah.
super like, yeah. Even though everyone called Yubin gifted, she failed the gifted child's test.
Uh
But your
oh.
son, Dongseok, he passed with flying colors, okay? But Yubin told her mom and the teachers in school that your son Dongseok exposed himself to her. And
Uh
Yubin has an
uh.
alibi. It's your niece. Your niece also says the same thing. Dongseok, your son, adamantly denies this. He has no idea what they're talking about. He's denying this, but everybody at the school and in the building are treating you and your son like criminals. One day, you hear these little kids talking about Dongseok's underwear and how it was red. But every single pair of underwear that your son owns, he does not have a single pair of red underwear. He wears only blue because he's extremely particular about his color preferences. So your son was framed for this. Nobody believes you. What do you do?
I'm probably at this because this is so I'm out for blood. I'm suing them all. Like I'm going crazy. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
revenge. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You been?
Okay.
You better watch your little ass, okay? I'm gonna take more than your
Yeah.
$3,000 violin. I'll tell you what.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Gotta.
I'm a very nice person, but you mess with my family
Yes.
and then I become a
Mm.
different person, okay? Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Okay. Let's say you're Eunpyo again. You're the same mother, okay? You and your
Okay.
friend Jinha, the woman who stole your husband,
Yeah.
I mean your boyfriend, you guys have it out. All right? You guys have it out. She
Okay.
keeps latching on to you even though you really hate her and you want to, maintain some distance from her for stealing her
Right.
boyfriend, all right? You tell her that you really don't like her and that, you would prefer if you guys just didn't see each other and then she fucking slaps you across the face. The next morning, they find her dead body outside of your building. they
Oh,
rule it they rule it as a
Omo!
suicide. What do you
Omo! This is like Sky Castle. I need to watch this.
what do you do?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna make sure I have an alibi for that night before. My goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. What do you do?
Yeah.
I probably try to help find who killed her, I guess. My God. Or move.
Mm.
We gotta go. We gotta move again. We gotta get out of here. This is a crazy neighborhood. There's too much happening. My son is
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
framed as a pervert. Somebody killed this bitch. We gotta go. Uh-uh.
Okay, yeah, it's
No. It's
intense.
time to
It's a
move.
lot.
That's what I
Oh,
think.
time to go. Time to go. And then
Yeah.
sage the new place you move into. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get some
There's some
crystals.
bad vibes here.
Yeah. Yeah. Call a shaman. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
real.
Okay.
Something ain't right with this
Mm.
neighborhood.
Okay. Let's say now you're different. You're a different person now. Okay. Let's say you're
Oh, okay.
Chunhee. Okay. You're the mother of that bratty girl Yubin.
Of
You're the
Yubin.
mom
Okay.
of Yubin. You're Yubin's mom, Chunhee. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're this Miss High and Mighty lady, right? Wife to a doctor. Everybody thinks you're the shit. But you've been feeling insecure about the fact that your children are not doing very well in school compared to your nemesis, Eunpyo's kids, right? Now your
Mm-hmm.
daughter Yubin is going around lying egregiously, telling everybody she attends a school for gifted children, even though she doesn't. She's telling people how she's winning awards everywhere she goes, even though that's not true, right? She has the symptoms of a pathological liar. And when you confront her about it, she says it's all because she wants to make you happy. What do you do?
It's time to get that kid some therapy. That's what I think. Time to see a
Okay.
therapist.
Okay.
Something wrong
Right.
with your little girl.
Okay. Go to the
She's like
hospital.
a little
Okay.
criminal.
Yeah, a little crook. Yeah, a little liar. She's a little
But
car
my
salesman.
daughter would
Yeah.
never be like that because I would never be that
No.
hard on my little baby.
No. That would
Mm-mm.
never happen. No, no, no.
No.
Okay. Let's say you're the same lady. You're Chunhee again, okay? You
Okay.
actually you actually have a secret job, okay? You actually have a secret job. You used to work as a nurse before you married your doctor husband because you wanted to be the wife of
Okay.
a doctor. That was all you ever wanted, okay? But turns out your husband was riddled in gambling debt because he's a gambling addict and he's still paying a huge monthly alimony to his ex-wife. You guys are broke as shit. You didn't know this when you married him. So what you've been doing, okay? You've been administering pharmaceutical sedatives to clients illegally to make money, all right? And you even have a drug pimp who harasses you and bullies you.
Oh
He's
my
like
gosh,
telling you that
this
he's going to
drama is
expose you if you
wild.
if you don't do this job. You've been doing this extra work so you can make extra income so that you can send your kids to Hagwon. That was all you wanted to do. One
Uh,
day, you come home, your whole entire apartment is torn up because thugs came over to beat your husband up and break everything. What do you do?
it's time to move. Just keep saying, it's time to move. It's time to move. We gotta go. We gotta get out of here.
Get out of there. Get out of there.
Change our
Okay.
names.
Okay.
Get new
Yeah. A whole new
IDs.
life.
Whole new
Uh-huh.
life. We
Yeah.
gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
This is not.
Yeah. Gotta
We made
gotta
some
go.
mistakes. We made some big mistakes in our lives.
Time to move to Florida. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's time to go to Florida. Okay. Last question.
Okay.
Let's say you're Eunpyo again, okay? You're Eunpyo.
Okay.
because of the attention that your son's been receiving from local
Uh-huh.
mothers and the school, he was asked to appear on a television show for gifted children. They play like quiz
Okay.
games and what have you. Ever since he makes that appearance, all these random strangers come up to you and start talking to your kid. And your son, he actually wants to like play with toys and take breaks, but you sit him down at his desk and you make him study, 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 right? One day, your kid, Dongseok, he runs out of a classroom in the middle of a presentation and he pees his pants. And another day, he sits under a table with a paper bag over his head. And when you try to reach for him, he bites your hand. And now he has completely stopped speaking altogether. And the child psychologist says that he's been working on his math problems because it's something you wanted, but not necessarily what he wanted. And he just wanted to
Mm.
make his mom happy. What do you do?
Mm. That's so sad.
Yeah, too dark again? I'm sorry, I should have given you a trigger warning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess stop pushing him. You gotta stop pushing him. You can't push your kids that hard. They don't care about math.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let them
Keep,
play. Jesus.
yeah. Keep
Let
pushing them,
them
they'll break.
run around. Throw them in some
Oh,
dirt
yeah.
or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Drop
Let
your son off in a pile of dirt.
let him go to town. Let him do whatever he wants. Take the kid on a vacation. Jesus.
Vacation.
And
Yeah. Okay.
and maybe probably some therapy. And then we
Yeah,
should move.
therapy for sure.
And then we should move
And
again.
then move. And then move. Yeah, get some selenite, move. Okay, great, great. That was awesome. Thank you. This was great. Thank you, Liz.
You're welcome. This was so fun. I have to